Joining us now, Democratic Congressman from Texas, Marc Veasey. He's a member of the House Energy and Commerce Committee. Congressman, what is your reaction to these moves, and does it make us safer?
No, these moves are absolutely crazy and unnecessary. Trump actually caused a panic, a huge panic in the healthcare community a few days ago when he did that initial freeze. I had individuals from federally qualified healthcare centers reach out to me and tell me that morning at 8 a.m. that they were locked out of the grant and loan system and they were not able to get in that morning before it was supposed to even take place at 5 p.m. And so he compounds it with this effort. And I had a doctor reach out to me from Chicago that I know that grew up here in Texas that said that all of the information about contraception and STIs that were on the CDC website has been pulled down, and that there's now an actual black market amongst healthcare professionals to get this information because no one can access it and find it now. And it's very critical that healthcare providers have this information. But of course, he took it down. And so now it's created this crazy underground system of doctors trying to share this information with one another. Just absolutely ridiculous and unnecessary.
Well, I've heard confusion from folks, even in the public health sector. HIV/AIDS is not something that impacts one demographic or another. It's not an LGBTQ or a gender identity issue. All people of any demographic, age, gender can be affected by this very serious virus and disease. So that's really concerning a lot of people. I also wanted to ask you, some government agencies have suspended all events marking holidays like Martin Luther King Jr. Day, Black History Month, which is now underway. This is even coming as Trump actually signed a proclamation marking February as Black History Month, which is a bit confusing. The son of Martin Luther King Jr. is speaking out today saying, quote, "I object to Trump disingenuously citing my father," he said of the DI attacks that, quote, "nothing could be further from my father's dream." How much progress do you think could be reversed if these policies continue and stay in place for the next 4 years?
Oh, I think a lot of progress is going to be reversed in all government agencies, in the military. It's interesting. I had an off-the-record conversation back in 2021 with female soldiers at Fort Hood, now Fort Cavazos in Killeen, Texas. And they told me that because of some of these programs that were put in place after the death of Vanessa Guillen that lost her life, that a lot of the jokes, a lot of the slights, a lot of the sexism and racism, not anything, blatant that was already being addressed, but things that people could get away with before that had ended. And my guess is that a lot of those programs that were designed to really sort of get at the root of some of the racism that is more subtle, that's going to completely be eliminated, and that people can't address issues about things like inappropriate jokes or inappropriate sexist comments. And as they say, America's back. And for a lot of conservative and MAGA people, what America's back mean is that we can go back to the time to where you didn't have to worry about saying inappropriate things to people or making comments that could be misconstrued as racist or sexist because life was better back then. And that's really what I'm worried about, is that people are going to think that now it's open season and you can get away with whatever the hell you want to get away with.
I also want to get your reaction to what's happening at the FBI. All 6 of the FBI's most senior executives are being forced out, along with multiple heads of FBI field offices across the country. This, of course, as we've mentioned, was tied to their roles in prosecutions of Trump and January 6 rioters. Top Democrats have slammed this and other actions as an assault on the rule of law. But what is the plan to fight back? What are Democrats doing besides coming on here? And thank you for coming on here and talking to us. But is there anything concrete that Democrats are really doing to push back?
We are going to obviously have to count a lot on our judicial system to push back on a lot of this. But I think just raising awareness amongst our constituencies and asking them to really speak out against all of this, I think is going to be important. And I think we have to be strategic about what we speak out against. You heard Steve Bannon say flood the zone, meaning just throw so much out there that it's hard to respond to anything and have people pay attention to it. And I think that this example, prosecutors being fired, literally prosecutors being fired for putting people in jail that beat the crap out of cops. Think about that. That's the sort of thing that we need to emphasize to the American public over and over again, and not not let Trump pull us in every which way and every which direction. And we need to be very vigilant about that. And it's crazy to think about Kash Patel, who said that he's not sure that Joe Biden actually won the 2020 election, that this could be someone that's going to be put in charge of the FBI. It's just bananas that he was even nominated and that people are acting like it's normal. And it's another thing that if he actually gets in there, but those are the sort of things that we need to focus on and center on. And again, just not be pulled in so many different crazy directions that every time this man opens up his stupid mouth.
All right. Representative Marc Veasey, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.